Alright then, in the previous module you probably heard me say, we'll talk about that in the next module several times, probably 25 times, and now this is the module where we actually explain a little more detail about what these file formats are all about in Word 2007. As you saw when we made our save in the previous module, we saved this document that we were working on as a .doc file format. And if I go back and open that up, and when I save it in fact, you see this little bracket that says compatibility mode. And what that means very simply is that none of the new or enhanced features of Word 2007 are available when you're making changes. And that includes, that might be hard to see with the naked eye. You probably wouldn't notice it right at first glance, but it affects things like the margins and the bibliography and the citations. We talk about how to create those things later on in this tutorial, but it changes the way that the file deals with those elements in the document, and it just essentially turns them into static text. And the net of it all means that if you're working in an environment where you might be the only person using Word 2007 or your coworkers are using previous versions of Office, you can still open up a .doc file, edit it, save it, or send it back to them in an email, and you're not going to have made any changes that they won't be able to see and deal with. There won't be any kind of translation problems because 2007 will kind of disable or convert dynamic elements into static text that can be edited and sent back and again. So you probably won't really notice that these changes are being made in compatibility mode. Now, the other big change in the way that Office 2007, and again talking about Word 2007, deals with files is that it saves things as a default in this XML format, that's extensible markup language. What you see when you save your files in XML is that the file extension changes. If you're just saving a Word document, the document's going to save in a .docx format or file extension. A template is going to save as .docx, and if it's a macro-enabled document, it's .docm. A macro-enabled template would, by the way, would be .dotm as well. So there are a lot of implications. It's really beyond the scope of this course to go too much into what XML is all about. But essentially, there's two huge benefits. One, it makes your files a little bit leaner and meaner. You should see the file size reduce as you're dealing with Word documents that you're working on. The other significant factor with XML is that it really enables interoperability a lot better than it ever did before. For example, you can grab elements from a back-end data source and have them dynamically update in Word. So essentially, XML lets you edit the document by editing a different data source that is somewhere else in your network. Now then, if you've saved something and you save it as a Word document, again, that's going to save as a .docx file. Well, what if you email that out to someone else who has a previous version of Office? Well, no problem. All they need is the Office compatibility pack for 2007, and you can get that at office.microsoft.com. The caveats here is that before you use the compatibility pack for 2007 on a previous edition of Office, you need to make sure that if you're using Office 2007, for example, you have Service Pack 3 installed for Office 2007. Same thing with Office XP, the Service Pack 3. If that other person is using Service Pack 1, I should say, if that other person is using Office 2003, they need to make sure and have Service Pack 1 installed. So again, it really shouldn't be a problem. Don't worry if you're using Word 2007 and someone else you know is using a previous edition. They can get the compatibility pack and open up your documents just fine. Alternatively, you could save things as a .doc file extension and then send that off and they could open it no problem. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in this module is another new option in Office 2007 and Word 2007 is that you have this Save As feature. You can save your documents as either a PDF or an XPS file. What does that mean? Well, the XPS stands for XML Paper Specification, and you can get a viewer for the XML Paper Specification at office.microsoft.com. A PDF, of course, it stands for Portable Document Format, and you can get the portable document format at the viewer at adobe.com. So, why are these two things significant? Well, in a word or two, each of these file specifications or these file formats preserve what's called fidelity of the document, which means very simply that if I save this document or this page in an XPS file format or a PDF file format, and then I send it off, it's really platform independent, and it's also application independent. All that other person needs is a computer and one of the two viewers, and they will see the exact same thing that I created, because it really makes the document essentially uneditable on the other end, or at least that's the essential idea. I mean, there are some caveats to all this, but again, it's not the scope of this course to talk much about these different file formats, but just know that it makes it so that I send something out to someone else that I've created, and they can look at it and send it out to a printer. Almost any printer in the world can print out a PDF or a XPS file format, and they will get a printed document that is exactly the same as what you created on your computer.